Seuraava puhuja tulee VTT:ltä ja seuraava puhuja on englanninkielinen. So welcome VTT and Zulkarnain from VTT. There has been a lot of activities ongoing to forecast what is the opportunity in smart traffic opportunities, what is the business volume, what kind of forecast there will be. And Zulkarnain from VTT will explain what has been the current understanding, what is the opportunity, what have been the academic methods to forecast the opportunity. And we hope that after 5 years we can see 10 or 100% bigger opportunities in the smart traffic.
Kiitoksia. Hyvää huomenta kaikille. Let me continue my presentation in English. Thank you very much for a chance giving to me to be here to share some of our research, what I have done with my professor, Dr. Pekka Leviakangas, which the study is about the Suomen ITS markkinoiden koko ja rakenne, or Finnish ITS market and size and structure. The definition of ITS industry is holistic and somewhat subjective, but since ITS in itself does not have definite boundaries, but however in this study we just follow the loose definition of ITS given by Intelligent Transportation Society of America. ITS is the collective term for the use of electronics, communications, and information processing technology to improve all aspects of transportation, including the public transportation. Just to remember several ITS benefits, there are a number of ITS benefits. It's supposed to be all of you have already known, but here is the example of ITS potential, especially for the road transport coming from the literature I have. It could reduce the congestion by around 5 to 15%, and also this likely the same percentage for less fatalities and less injuries, and also for the environmental issues that it will possibly save the CO2, the carbon dioxide emissions until 10 to 20%. Talking about the global ITS market, ITS market growth has been seen to possess the great potential in the world. I mean, based on the BCC research, there will be a strong growth for ITS device market, and they say that the worldwide market is valued about $24 billion in 2010, and also it is expected to increase at around 23% compound annual growth rate, and so on and so on. Another analysis coming from, for example, a global industry analysis looks like slightly different, but in the end, the global ITS market, we can say that it has a positive or optimistic growth nowadays. Now, the question is, how about Finnish ITS industry? Where are we now? At least we have 3 questions to be answered in the study. First is, how big is the Finnish ITS market? In the study, it is all about the market size of ITS. In the study, we do the research to find the market size of ITS in Finland in supply side. So in the supply side, not in the demand side. The supply side consists of the companies that deliver ITS and services and products to the customers. The supply side also represents the true size of demand, the true size of the market, since ITS supply side, we can assume that there would not be a true demand, then there would not be any turnover that company produce, obviously. So in a simplistic manner, we can simply divide that ITS market size is simply a sum of turnover of the ITS company in ITS industry, since it represents the total value of ITS goods and services that provided after the demand. Like that. And the second one is the second question that to be answered in this research is, what is the ITS industry structure like? The industry structure will be described in positioning the ITS companies into the industry value chain. And not only that, but we will also assess some characteristics like the completeness of industrial value chains, and then also the market concentration in industry, and then the employment effects also. And then the last question is, how does the market growth look like? In general, we do some steps in this study, starting from collecting the database of ITS companies. It's around 100 companies we got from our business intelligence units, and after that we try to screening them one by one by using their own company profiles, and we just cross-checking, and we just decide, is this company relevant enough to be included as an ITS company. So totally we do the selection, and in the end we have around 55 companies included in this study. And we got the data from multiple sources of data. Mainly, first is coming from the company's annual report. Of course, this is the more important thing. And if we didn't get the figure from this company annual report, we just go through the public databases that collect information from the National Board of Patent and Register of Finland, like Fonecta Finder or Yritystilefi, and also some economic and finance journal like Kauppalehti. And if we still do not get the data, we just do asking a direct question to senior managers to the companies that we have them as a sample. And the other way, if we still don't have information about their turnover figure, we just do our self-assessment based on the identifiable business segment and headcounts provided in the public or website. And then for the calculating for the market growth, we use only the smaller samples, which is the 100% ITS focused company. Why? Because we want to prevent, or we want to exclude the noise of other growth that possibly caused by other business segment for those companies that have several business segments. So this is several about our methods and data. And this is our first result about national ITS industry. We can see from the graph that the Finnish companies in ITS industry has a dominant proportion still. It's around 43%. How we decide it is a Finnish company and there are another non-Finnish companies? We decide them by, based on the location of the headquarters. Those companies headquartered in Finland, so they are regarded as a Finnish company, although the ownership could be anywhere. And also here we can see that the 100% ITS focused company that exists is around 1/3 of our samples, around 24 companies. So how about our market size in Finland? We can say that it is approximately around 3 million euros in 2010, which is, if we compare with GDP of Finland 2010, it has a value of 0.17%, related to the GDP. Talking about the GDP shares of ITS segment, we have other references coming from this ITIF report that the investment in ITS as a share of GDP among selected countries, which is South Korea, Japan, and United States, looks like in the figure. It's very smaller than our figures, 0.17%, but just keep in our mind, but because this study is definitely different with our study. What we have done is definitely different with the report in this slide. Because in this ITS investment in Asia countries, they only consider the investment for government fundings, for the government investment. So it is look like for only the public procurement. Then we have a supply side ITS market, not only not the same with this scope in ITS investment in this segment. And here, about the modified, about the simplified industry supply chain that we use in this research is, there are three simplistic rules in supplying ITS product and services. The first one is equipment and hardware providers that manufacturing or distributing some components or and use ITS products, hardware, as well as the personal device, for example, to the customers. And the second group is the systems and applications provider. This group produces several ITS supported systems, contents, applications, as well as the software. And the last group is services providers that delivering ITS services or solutions to customers, including consulting, design, installation, and operating of ITS services will be included in here. This function of supply group will meet the demand that coming up from public procurement and corporate customers and also the consumers. And then in the efficient market, it will meet a stage of equilibrium. And here the figure of our industry structure for considering the ITS value chain. We have seen that service providers company have a dominant position amongst the other, and it is followed by equipment providers in the second place, and also the applications providers in the last place, both for the number of companies and also the market share or the market size, which is in turnover figure in here. And this is another figure of about ITS industry supplier market structure considering their size of business. We can see that dominantly the medium and small size of companies looks like dominant in this market. But however, in a more closer explanation, we can see that there is restricted group consists of medium-sized company, consists of 5 companies there, and one big company, one large company that has a significant market share in ITS industry. The ITS market concentration was also evaluated by using the Herfindahl index. The Herfindahl index is simply calculated by summing squared of the individual firms of market share. And the Herfindahl index of ITS industry in Finland for 2010 was 0.092. It means that the market concentration in Finland is categorized as an unconcentrated market. No monopolistic or even oligopolistic features exist in this market. And then about the ITS market trend. Here from the figure, we can see that there is a significant growth in 2006. From 2006 to 2007. But since that, after that, we have seen the very slowly been turning upward from the growth, from the negative growth in 2008 and 2009. But since ITS by definition is expected to have a strong correlation with the IT and telecommunication services sectors, so it will be interesting also to see, to know what has happened with the in the eye of investor in the same time period, which is we use the Finnish share index that is provided by the Bank of Finland. And it is unsurprisingly, they have likely the same trend with our ITS market trend. They have a significant growth in 2006, but they have a declining trend for the next years. So in the end, if we see the growth in one chart and we put them all of the growth in one chart, we can see that ITS total turnover trend, if we compare them with the nominal GDP growth, we can say that yeah, it is yet promising. And even if we compare it with the IT sectors index and telecommunication index growth, it's still promising. And you can see also in the fast-growing companies, they are doing well, whereas the lowest, the weakest performance companies seems to be declining for the next years. And then the employment effect. We also check the employment number in ITS industry. That is, totally they have 1,800 people working in the ITS sectors. And we can also see that only a handful of companies that has that employs more than 100 employees there, and this is some figures of employment in ITS. So from here we can have several inspiration for the next steps to be pondered for the next steps. The first thing is the annual market structure and size to follow up the trend. Is the cake growing? Is the industry concentrating or unconcentrating for the long period of time in the time series manner? How about the emergence of the servitizations in the long period of times? And then the second question, the second inspiration is how about the demand side analysis that is still missing in this analysis, and also the research and development intensity. It will be interesting also to ponder for the next step. And also the third point is how domestic is ITS business for real, also for the long time series. And what is ITS trade balance between supply and demand, and also about the value chain to identify. It will be interesting to splitting clusters into smaller units that we will have a chain trends for a more clear picture. And then how about the emerging clusters, the identification of potential competitive clusters if the hardware providers, system providers, and services providers going together will be the potential for the competitive clusters. So as a conclusion, we can say that how big the ITS market? The answer is around 300 million euros in 2010 and around 1,800 employees in 2010 also. And how is the industry structure? We can see that service providers have a relatively dominant position, followed by equipment and hardware, and systems application as the last one. And the market is identified to be unconcentrated. And the third question that we will answer is how does the market growth look? It has a significant growth in 2007, but has since then been very slowly been turning upwards from negative growth observed in 2008 and 2009, but still promising if compared with GDP growth and IT and telecommunication share index growth. And I want to inform you also about this study. It will be presented also in ITS World Congress Vienna, Austria in this October. And this is also part of my my graduate school, graduate school student study. and insurance renovation program. And we would like to thank also the Ministry of Transport and Communication Finland to help us out with the funding to do this research. So thank you and kiitoksia.
Mikään business ei toimi, ellei siihen virtaa rahaa sisään, jolloin markkinoiden ennustaminen ja sen löytäminen on tärkeä osa, muun muassa millä me saadaan bisnesenkelit ja rahoittajat osaksi tätä liiketoimintaa. 1 tai 2 nasevaa kysymystä sopisi tässä vaiheessa, joko suomeksi tai englanniksi, mä voin kääntää tarvittaessa englanniksi, eli kertokaa miksi ette usko tai miksi uskotte tähän bisneksiin.
Try without microphone. So these figures were only concerning Finnish companies doing business in Finland. So need to separate the exporting and local sales somehow.
You mean for the total market size?
Yeah.
Okay. For the total market size, we consider all of the both of the Finnish companies and also the non-Finnish companies. We only have a supplement information to know how the proportion of Finnish companies and non-Finnish companies in the other segment, but it is not related to our figure of turnover total market size, because the total market size that we have nowadays, including both for Finnish and non-Finnish companies.
Vastasiko? No. Ja edelleen haastakaa puhujat seuraavan tauon aikana. Ja tässä on sitten antaakseni kredittiä ekonomisteille ja insinööreille tämän markkinan ennustamisesta, niin itse ollessani, niin kuin sanoin siitä, parikymmentä vuotta sitten mukana, kun ilmiöstä, josta mobiililiiketoiminta puhuttiin, niin silloin älykkäät ekonomistit ja insinöörit ennustavat, että tämä mobiililiiketoiminta saattaisi olla iso bisnes tulevaisuudessa, ja silloin päätettiin tehdä Suomeen sellainen matkapuhelinverkko, että sen kapasiteetti riittää ikuisesti. Se kapasiteetti ei koskaan lopu. Ja silloin vastaavassa tilaisuudessa parikymmentä vuotta sitten alan viisaat asiantuntijat päättivät, että tehdään Suomeen 40 000 tilaajan verkko. Me kaikki tiedetään, että tällä hetkellä on Suomessa 5,2 miljoonaa tilaajaa matkapuhelinverkoissa, ja silloin ennustettiin, että 40 000 on se maksimissaan, jolloin uskon vakaasti, että me edustetaan vastaavaa ilmiöä, mikä tällä hetkellä tulee. Eli siinä oli ekonomistien osaaminen kyseiseen aikajänteeseen, toivottavasti vastataan sitä asiaa tulevaisuudessa.